The changing Native American culture and their resistance and conflict to European changes. The Europeans are going to attempt to change Native American beliefs and their worldviews, their basic social issues such as religion and gender roles in the family, the relationship of people with the natural environment. And these attempted changes by Europeans lead to Native American resistance and conflict between the two groups. Let's look first at religion. There is a diverse range of Native American religions. Most of them have a common theme among them, and that is animism. And that is the belief that nature is sacred. In fact, that there are spirits living in plants and animals and things all around us, and that people need to keep those spirits happy. That's one of the common themes of Native American religion before Europeans arrive. And we know many of those Europeans attempt to Christianize the Native Americans. In fact, some Europeans saw themselves as on a holy mission, that the Indians were pagan, the Indians were inferior, and their religions were inferior. This is why European nations, especially Spain and France as well, sent missionaries. And among the first groups to go are the Franciscans. And the Franciscan missionaries, along with Jesuit missionaries, but the Franciscan missionaries were famous for going to the most remote areas, and sometimes they were even tortured and killed by Native Americans. And as a result of this, a belief grows among Franciscans that, or among many people, that the Indians could only be converted by force. As a result of this drive to Christianize the Native Americans, by 1600 there are over 300 Spanish missions in the New World, in North America alone. Just look at the area around Florida and all the missions found there. At these missions, these were the center of the operation to try to Christianize, to bring Christianity to the Native Americans, where they would try to convert Native Americans, but also control Native Americans for the encomienda system and harness their labor. After about 10 years, the missions would be secularized, meaning the church would turn over that property to the people living in the area. They would become officially part of the Spanish Empire. And that land would be divided among any and all converts, people who had become Christian, Native Americans even. And they're also given their citizenship in the Spanish Empire. This is a big difference from the way we'll see the English treat Native Americans. Native Americans were not treated wonderfully by the Spanish, as we'll talk about it in a little bit, but they were given citizenship by the Spanish Empire. And as part of that citizenship, though, they had to start paying taxes. Another aspect of Native American life that is changed by Europeans is this idea of communal living. Before Europeans arrived, some Native Americans lived in bands, or what we might call loosely related families. And sometimes they even lived in the same buildings, like the Iroquois and their longhouses. They also practiced polygamy, which is where one man marries multiple wives. And there are logistical reasons for why. Oftentimes there was a shortage of males, be that as a result of European diseases or warfare. It allowed women to marry men who were resistant to those diseases and pass those traits on to their kids. And it also provides support for wives, or support for children if a wife dies as a result of, say, disease. All of this is replaced by, in the Spanish colonies, the caste system that sees people from Europe at the very top and Native Americans as labor and later slaves at the very bottom of society. And it's also replaced by Christian marriages. Here we see a picture from a ceremony between a French trapper and a Native American wife, but being married in the Christian tradition. Another aspect of Native American culture that saw a change was that strong respect for the elders. The elder members of a Native American group would be considered the highest regarded members of that society. This is replaced. There's a new group at top, and that's colonial rule, be it the governors of the region sent by Spain, or the king of Spain and his appointed governors, or it may just be the encomenderos, the people that are given that land and the Native Americans' labor. Normally these are former conquistadors that were rewarded for their service to the crown by being given land and an encomienda. So what did Native Americans do about it? Oftentimes there is armed resistance, there is fighting. And this does typically not work out well for Native Americans, as they are majorly outgunned in terms of technology. Armor, weapons, and horses provide Europeans with a big advantage. But that's not the only form of resistance. We also see Native Americans taking ownership of some of these things. An example of this is the Virgin of Guadalupe, which was an apparition of the Virgin Mary, but with brown skin, not white skin, and an apparition of the Virgin Mary that was speaking an Indian language, and she allegedly appeared to a Native American in Mexico and performed miracles. This really legitimizes American Indian converts as Catholics, and it makes them a part of this religion. In other words, it makes Catholicism for them. It makes it something that is designed or now fits for them. Another thing to do would be to blend ideas, take old ideas and mix them with some of the new ones that are being forced upon them. Following the conquest of Mexico in 1519 to 1521, the Spanish destroyed a temple of the mother goddess Tenochtin, and that's who we see here, outside of Mexico City. And right on that same land, they built a chapel dedicated to the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus, right on the exact same site that this former Aztec mother goddess had her temple. Newly converted Indians continued to come from afar to worship there, and they oftentimes continued to address the new statues and pictures of the Virgin Mary as Tenochtin. In fact, the Virgin of Guadalupe was seen on the same hill where there used to be a temple dedicated to this Aztec mother goddess. So they've kind of just combined the new Christian symbol of motherhood, the Virgin Mary, with this old symbol of motherhood that they had under the Aztecs, the goddess Tenochtin. Another resistance method is just to accommodate, to fake it. And certainly there were Native Americans who did that. Said they went along with the Catholic religion, but continued maybe to practice their own beliefs or at least believe their own things. And this comes to a head in under the Spanish mission system in what is today New Mexico. Juan de Onete was a Spanish conquistador, and he led troops and monks into the New Mexico area that had lots of Pueblo Indians in there. And they put down initial revolts in a very harsh manner by killing and enslaving hundreds, and even cutting off the feet of 24 Pueblo men who had resisted. A recent protest in New Mexico saw this statue there in the background of Juan de Onete. The foot of the statue was removed by protesters. But in the 1600s, in response to this harsh rule by the Spanish, Native Americans revolted in what was called the Pueblo Revolt. Franciscan monks in the area had originally allowed Native Americans to simply act Christian. In other words, as long as they attended Mass, the monks didn't care that they would still go practice their own religion. But later, eventually, they cracked down on those Native American religions. They tried to ban Native American dances, and they burned some of the Kachina dolls, which were sacred symbols in the Native American religion in that region. And they even executed some of the religious leaders, the medicine men among the tribe. As a result, a Native American leader by the name of El Pope, a Pueblo Indian from the area, leads a revolt, probably the most successful revolt by Native Americans against European rule. And they are able to successfully drive the Spanish out of the New Mexico area, and it takes a number of years for Spain to regain control of the territory.